But see, like,
There's
okay,
a
so
lot of
how long ago is that though, Annie?
That probably had to be about 20 years ago.
20 years ago. See, like that goes back to what I was saying earlier in the episode, where there could be a lot more going on, right? Where are we sure this is actually alien technology? Like, are we sure this isn't something that was sent from Russia or China, knowing as China to be, the greatest boom of economy and industry in recent history? Like, is it really alien technology? Like, can you be sure that this wasn't sent from, another country or anything like that? Like, even if it did exist and even if they saw what they saw, how can you be sure, right? Because honestly, if 20 years ago you would have seen a drone flying from anywhere else in the world, wouldn't you have assumed that that drone is actually alien technology? Because we don't have drones the way we have them now, right? And so, like, having a small aircraft, something, 20 years ago, something that would seem like a small aircraft, that would freak people out, right? And you got to assume that too, because, like with the military, they've always been ahead, at least 20 years ahead in technology, right? Like the sort of technology that they have right now, if you would see it, it would blow your mind. You know what I mean? And so, like, it would make sense that 20 years ago, something like that could have potentially existed, but was kept under wraps. It wasn't really given any civilian use during that time. I don't know. I'm a bit skeptical. It does seem a bit odd that it would just shoot up into the sky and then they would lose track of it, even with the primitive surveillance equipment back then. I would assume they would have at least been able to locate it after a shot in the sky. But then, perhaps they just kept it under wraps, or they just, decided not to talk about it for the sake of not disturbing the public. But,
nah,
that's something
crazy
to think of. Yeah.
You say all of that, but if you think about it, she said it was 20 years ago, right? But now there's still technology that's spear based and can move like that. If it was like China, like you was talking about, why they don't have any commercial grade aircraft that's
I mean,
like a spear.
It's not there for civilian use, but can you actually say with 100%, can you be sure that technology doesn't exist, but you just don't know about it? Can you be sure that they're not hiding in like some kind of developmental facility for that sort of stuff to just freak people out, or be able to use it to, like, study certain things within the demographic and use that against you? Like, because you know how it is with China, right? It's pretty much conquered the economy, especially when it comes to how much debt the U.S. owes China. You feel like they're always ahead when it comes to building stuff these days, right? And so, and there are so many other ways that you notice they're spying on us, right? They're spying on the rest of the world, not just the U.S. And so, like, 20 years ago, it might not have been apparent. It's like now perhaps they have all this technology that would allow them to cloak all these, or they would use the satellites the way that they do, where they don't even need to send stuff like that anymore. But if at some point they created that sort of device, machine, peripheral, whatever you want to call it, just for the sake of that, because they didn't have any other, smarter form of technology to do it, I wouldn't put it beyond them. I haven't seen any spherical shaped devices or aircrafts or anomalies, but at the same time, I wouldn't put it past them. Technology has evolved in such a way that just freaks me out sometimes. Like, especially during the past couple of years as compared to the past centuries, right? Like, if you look at the Industrial Revolution and what had happened before, like between the 1800s and the 1900s, and even before that, when alchemy was still a big thing, technology has never evolved in the history of mankind the way that it has recently evolved. And you notice a lot of it happening in like these weird, strange places on Earth, right? Like, I don't know if you guys ever heard of, like, when Leonardo da Vinci came out with all of these designs, how he did it, like how he went into the woods one day and then came back 3 days later after they looked everywhere for him and they couldn't find him. And he came back, that he was still intact. There was nothing wrong with him, but he came back with all these designs for what we're now using as our automobile design. So he came back with the designs for how cars would work, for how automobiles would look and how they would work and the way they would run. And so there are all these stories of like evolution when it comes to tech and sort of like the technological side of things. And it's a little freaky if you think about it. I think there's a lot more going on there than meets the eye. And I don't mean to be like one of those conspiracy theorists, because I've never actually delved that much. I think you, Coco, would know a lot more about it than I would, like all these conspiracy stories. But I always try to look at things logically and try to understand things from a mathematical perspective, per se. Try to put two and two together. I don't know, like what do you guys think? Like why is it that we have evolved so fast the way we did? And do you think that it has something to do with space? Because if you think about it, we got connected through space, right? And it's after we got connected that this boom in industry and technology happened, when we brought all the greatest minds together. But is there more to it than that?
It could be. I don't know. It's like the invention of like the satellites, and what the GPS also was huge for us, connecting everything to everything. Like using your phone to navigate, your car can navigate. All of that is all together. Starting with the satellites.
It all started from there. Yeah.
Satellites too, and other companies.
Well, you could tell us more about it, Annie, because you recently had an interview with Tesla, right? So I think at some point you probably researched, SpaceX and the projects that are going on over there. Do you have any insight you could share with us?
SpaceX was not covered during my interview, but it does make me question, like you bring up China at the Pentagon. I mean, have you heard of like the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or ATIP? That's kind of like SpaceX.
So that's in China?
No, it's at the Pentagon, but it does make me realize like why they call it the Advanced Aerospace, why they call it that, rather than like interterrestrial. I guess it does kind of include just worldly stuff. It's not really extraterrestrial stuff, since it's aerospace. And they didn't really mention aliens. So, it could totally be something like us just messing with us, people messing with people.
So you think it could actually be a conspiracy, and there's nothing really going on out there that we've discovered yet, at least? And you think it's just like China pulling a prank?
I mean, yeah, it's not even like specifically China. It could be anyone. It could be Americans messing with Americans, Russians, or Afghanistan, Middle East. I mean, it doesn't matter who, but I've considered, like I said, like both ends. I've looked at the facts, I've heard the rumors, and looked at the conspiracies, and I honestly can't pick a side on where I stand with them. I mean, they both make perfect sense looking at both sides. They contradict each other, but they have such solid backgrounds and arguments. It's like, I don't know which side to pick.
I honestly wouldn't put it past Americans, the land of the biggest trolls on the planet. And so, yeah, that would make a lot more sense. America's just trolling the rest of the world.